excited to see you. Today's video is going to be super awesome, if you can't tell from the title, because I have book recommendations that are like fresh, adding to the puzzle. What I have been doing over the past couple of weeks is going online onto the internet and looking up different indie bookstores all over the nation. And I've been keeping a little spreadsheet and I've been writing down their emails, and I have been reaching out to them on yours and my behalf, asking for the owners or the booksellers' favorite books. And I've gotten responses! And also there are a lot of websites for indie bookstores that have staff picks on them. So there is just like a treasure trove. And today we're going to talk about 10 of those recommendations. And it's so cool that people even responded to me and that I get to share it with you, because I got to research 10 books that I'd never heard of before, and some of them got added to my TBR. Down below in the description, I will be posting the states and links to the bookstores where these particular recommendations come from. At the end of the video, I will tell you just a little bit of my process, how I found these things, and how you can find these recommendations, because I feel very, very strongly that we need some more diverse recommendations in our wonderful, awesome, big, cozy reading community. You know, you get on the YouTube and you get on the Instagram and you get on the TikTok, and just I see a lot of the same books, which is good. They're good books. Books are popular for a reason most of the time, but sometimes I want a little variety. Why isn't anybody recommending books from 2007 anymore, right? There's just decades and decades of books, thousands, millions of books published each year. I need to know other ones other than the New York Times bestsellers or the best classics. If I hear about War and Peace or Crime and Punishment again, I don't know what I'll do. So the fields are rich with the harvest of indie bookstores, which means there are lots and lots of people who specialize in books and who spend time with them every day and who probably have pretty unique tastes. It's an amazing list. I had a lot of fun researching it for you, and I am just so ready to share it with you. The first recommendation I have for you is, honestly, perhaps a classic. Have you ever heard of the TV show or the movies based around Jack Ryan? I'm sure you have. They're all over streaming services everywhere. Very popular political spy thriller novels. The first recommendation we have from a seasoned bookseller is The Hunt for Red October, which I'm sure we've all heard the name of, but don't know what it's about. Well, I can tell you what it's about now. The Hunt for Red October is the debut novel of Mr. Tom Clancy, who is huge. In his time, he was bigger than Stephen King, okay? Tom Clancy is awesome. This book was published in 1984. Basically, the US Navy and Russia are trying to find this submarine that has defected from the Russian military and is trying to make it to the United States. And it's a nuclear submarine. So it's very espionage, very intrigue, but also claustrophobic and aqua, things like that. I love stuff like that. That's just oh, you're stuck on a sub. What are you going to do? How are you going to communicate? Just like the new Mission Impossible movies. So if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. This would be a super amazing entry into spy thriller, which, you know what? You may look at spy thrillers and think, these are the things that my dad reads. Joe Nesbo, Tom Clancy, others. But you know what? They're popular for a reason. They're fun books. Why do you think there's so many romance books with cartoon covers? It's because they're fun books. Maybe if you need a break from some of the more serious literature you're reading, pick up a thriller. I venture you could pick up any Tom Clancy book, which will be readily available at used bookstores, by the way, because there's just a multitude of them. Pick it up, have a good time, read it on the plane. Maybe you'll make a new friend with the person sitting next to you, because I get a feeling that almost everybody loves Tom Clancy. So that's our first one, which banger to start with, a bestseller from years ago that us youngins probably wouldn't even have on our radar. Amazing. I love these people. The second recommendation is crazy. I remember when I read the email for this one and looked up the synopsis, I was on a walk with my father, And I looked at it and I said, sir, I have to tell you about this right now because it is so bonkers. This is a recent book. It was published this year by Miss Kate Folk, and it is called Sky Daddy. I should stop right there. That should be enough for you. Sky Daddy should be enough for you. It is exactly what you would never think of. There's a woman who, normal lady, she works very hard at her job, she's successful. Once a month, she treats herself and takes a round trip flight. This is a treat for her because it is like a date. And every month when she goes on this round trip flight, she gets to experience a new date with a new suitor and really just see herself blossom. The twist is she is sexually attracted to airplanes. So when she goes on the round trip flights to different destinations on different airplanes, she's going on first dates. Her mission in life, her dream, is to meet her plane soulmate, which I think might be a Boeing. So it's beautiful, it's fresh. We should all read it because how could we not? How could we not read this book? It's like you can't look away. I think it's gonna be fantastic. This came to us from somebody who is a full-time bookseller. It's on my TBR. It should be on yours. Sky Daddy, Kate Folk. Write it down, commit it to memory. We have to read this, people. We have to discuss it. Number 3, my lord. Pick number 3. Number 3, we are going from 2025 all the way back to good old 1940. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. Carson McCullers. He was 23 when he wrote this book. It was a debut. And it is an emotional and intriguing story that begins with 2 deaf men who have formed a friendship. However, one of them gets committed to an asylum, and so they can't really hang out anymore. They kind of lose that relationship. And so the man who's left behind starts forming relationships, maybe one-sided, with people in the town. And so the book follows the stories of these people and their perceived relationship with this deaf man who they sort of almost deify. Online, this book is classified as a Southern Gothic piece. It's supposed to have really great overtones addressing, classism and fascism during the day. So I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those brilliant, brilliant books that tells a story of a human, but makes us learn about a wider picture through that lived experience. The person who recommended it really raved about it to me, so this might be a good one for us to start putting in the rotation of classics, What even classifies a classic? Does it have to be, and I'm sure there's something, I just don't know it. Does it have to be published before a certain time? Or, because is Hemingway a classic? Could this book, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, be a classic? I kind of think so. If you are a classic booktuber or a classic lover, tell me if you've read this. Tell me if you think if it's the category. Number 4 is a very rare self-published novel that became a series of 7 books so far, I think, and was acquired by a major publishing company. This, of course, is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. Now, I have some personal resonance with this one. I used to be in a D&D group. It did not go very well because I was always trying to break the rules, because in my brain, Dungeons & Dragons has no rules. Why does it have rules? You make it all up. I digress. Dungeon Crawler Carl is pretty much like an RPG in a book. And the audiobooks were super, super recommended to me by one of my D&D group people. I even bought him a hardcover when the new covers came out, but I never read it. And maybe I want to, because the premise is super interesting. If the cover and the title do not entice you enough, this is about Carl, obviously. He has just broken up with his girlfriend and he has possession of her cat somehow. And through some sort of circumstance, they end up being in a gladiator-style death game that involves dungeon crawling, and they have to survive. Think of it like isekai, I don't know, but they get stats, they get weapons, and it goes on for 7 books, so I'm not sure if they tie together or stand alone, but come on. Doesn't that sound fun? Doesn't that sound like a good time? Honestly, really good book club book if you have like a bunch of nerdy friends and you want to like get together. It's a good one. Okay, number 5 is one that I found really super intriguing. A lot of these books I am finding are just so almost introspective and like deep character work focused. So if you're a writer, like think about that. Deep character is what these booksellers really, really love. This book is another oldie but a goodie. It is by Muriel Spark, published in 1961. Muriel, I looked up a little bit about her, and she seemed like very affluent, very educated, maybe a little bit upper crust, and it seems like she was a career writer as well. She wrote poetry and essays, short stories, and then obviously novels. This is her novel, The Prime of Miss Brodie. This book has a fascinating premise. It's about a woman, Miss Brodie, who is teaching, elementary schoolers. They're in a schoolhouse, it's set back, so everybody's kind of like jumbled together. But she basically picks favorites, and there are these 6 little girls who are like the Brodie 6 or like the Brodie group or something like that. And it goes through the educational career of all of these girls and how they're being manipulated by Miss Brodie. It goes through Miss Brodie's like forays into like relationships and affairs with other teachers, but also like the things she wants for the girls. Like she wants one of the girls to have an affair with one of the teachers because she thinks she's beautiful. She like chooses one girl as her favorite to like confide all her secrets in. So it's very intrigue, but small intrigue. Small intrigue where you are going to be understanding all of these girls, but somehow the main character remains a little bit of an enigma to you. It's very interesting. Definitely, I think like a girl power book. Like if I have like a girly pop month, I think this is one of the books for it. And another one that like, I don't know, is it a classic? Could be. I don't know. Okay, the next 2 books actually are 2025 published. It's really interesting because I feel like the recommendations I got from booksellers was either like pretty old, like pre-1980, or it was like 2025. But I think that just shows you the variety that they are reading because they're reading everything new that's coming out, right? But I feel like a lot of the older titles they've given me are like pretty obscure. Like no one's giving me like basic books. And in like the social media chasm, we all are kind of like in a whirlpool of recommendations. So while there are so many good books out there, we're all reading the same ones because we're like recommending them to each other, right? And that's not a bad thing. It's just we're all reading like the same-ish pool of books. And so we're all picking our favorites out of the same pool of books. And we're kind of like losing the diversity organically. So I hope this video will help that and like introduce some new genes into the pool. But we'll see. So these next 2, they're from 2025. The first is by, I'm reading off my laptop. I can't remember all these things. The first is by Daria Lavelle. It was published in May. It's called Aftertaste. I feel like I've read another book with kind of this same premise, but it was not like a romance thriller type of thing like this one is. Basically what happens is there is a man who has a superpower of sorts where he can taste ghosts. He can like taste what they taste, and so he kind of gets into the culinary world so he can learn how to cook the things that he's tasting. And he learns that when he cooks a meal that he tastes and feeds it to a loved one of that ghost, then they can communicate with each other. Pretty heartwarming, except for this is causing some issues in the afterlife. And somebody is sent to, kind of remediate, put an end to this, but they start to fall in love with our protagonist. So you can see where that would be a little silly, a little kooky. It takes place in like New York, Hell's Kitchen kind of area. So I'm guessing like there will be some intense characters, a lot of food descriptions, I'm assuming, and who doesn't love that? Our next 2025 is something that I have heard about before, but I have not read it. This is When the Tides Held the Moon. This is by Vanessa Vida Kelly. This was published in April of this year. I'm not sure exactly what time period it takes place in, but it is very like vintage throwback Coney Island, like think Love Never Dies kind of thing. And it's a love story. Honestly, I love the setting. It's so fun, and it gives a lot of liberty being like a Carnival Coney Island place, it gives a lot of liberty to the author to put some crazy characters in that you would not be able to put in others. So there's that. Number 8 is called The Overstory by Richard Powers. It's from 2018, so kind of in the middle range. We're not too old, we're not too new. I mean, 2018 feels like super new to me, but I am aware it was 7 years ago. Basically, you meet different characters and then they're all woven together in that they have formed an activism group to save the Redwoods. And they go through a lot of things together, and ultimately they culminate in kind of being like eco-terrorists. Can you say that on YouTube? I don't know. But they end up being eco-terrorists and causing some pretty big problems. And so they have to disband, and then the story continues from there with, the aftermath and what the people are going through then. So what I like about the idea of this one is that it's very interwoven. I can tell it's going to be from different perspectives, or at least talking about different characters in every single portion of it. They all have very different motivations and very different backstories, very different personalities, but they are all coming together for like this one moment of time, and then it slips away, and we're following them independently again. I love, love, love when an author is able to weave something together like that. This one really seems like a good portrait of relationships between strangers, then comrades, then strangers again. So again, another really good character one. And I encourage you, you know what, guys, I encourage you to look all these up. I know I have the covers showing here, but you really should look them up for yourselves, if any of them sound remotely interesting, because you may find your new favorite book. Okay, I have been told that number 9 is kind of like a legendary book. This is a sci-fi 1996 by Maria Doria Russell. All these authors have middle names. Gotta read them. This is The Sparrow. And The Sparrow is quite the interesting little sci-fi novel. The premise here reminds me somewhat of Dune, but this came 40 years after Dune, so I'm sure it's derivative in some ways. But what happens is Earth receives a transmission from life on other planets in the form of a song that's been picked up, and so obviously the governments of the world are trying to figure out a way and figure out the ethics of contacting these alien people and finding out if they want to meet with them and what they should do, how they should go about it. While all of this political talk is happening, there is a group of, I'm going to say Christians. I believe in the book they're just called the followers of Jesus. But basically, this group takes 7 people and they come in contact with the aliens first. They supposedly are not going to proselytize, but they come across 2 groups. One they perceive as evil, horrible alien group, and another that they perceive as a good alien group, and that they assume are, following God. Things do not go well. There's a lot of bad things that happen, and ultimately it's just one of these men who's left, and you are reading about not only his and his comrades' journey, but his aftermath returning to his planet and having to explain what happened and why they acted rogue and the consequences of everything. I'm not gonna lie, it seems like the kind of book that will shred your heart to pieces. I am probably not doing it justice. You need to look it up for yourself, because it just seems like, first of all, a staple of sci-fi, and second of all, heartbreaking. Probably will have you in tears. But some of us like that. Some of us are freaks like that, Okay, last one we're gonna cover on this video. Originally I was going to do 25 books, but I've been filming for quite a while and I don't want this video to be 2 hours long. So I think we'll have a part 2, probably a part 3. We have many more recommendations. There are like an infinite number of indie bookstores out there. But the last recommendation I have for you is Fresh Water for Flowers. This is by an author, Valeria Perrin, and it's from 2020. And fun fact about this one, it was the #1 bestseller in France when it came out. How cool is that? Pretty cool. This is another character-driven emotional story. Are we seeing a pattern here? There's a woman who is the caretaker of a cemetery, and she pretty much spends her life by herself in the caretaker's home and then receiving visits from all of her cemetery friends. So there's some grave diggers, there's some groundskeepers, and there's a priest. And that's her life, right? She really loves it. It's peaceful. She has good relationships with these people. One day the town sheriff shows up and he wants to scatter his mother's ashes on the grave of a former lover, like a one-time lover. And from there's this sort of mystery that unfolds and connections are made with her and this sheriff that she didn't know about. And she just becomes connected to all of these things. So it's a book that is kind of a slow burn romantic mystery. And I don't mean romantic in a relationship sense. I mean like in the vibe, in the feeling. You know, it's a romance. It's something that is dreamy and almost magical, but real life magical. So bestseller in France, pretty good vibes there. It's honestly like 1 part mystery and 3 parts heartwarming. It's one of the ones also that I've just put on my TBR. Slam dunk TBR. That's where it is. Okay, you guys, that is all 10 recommendations for this video. I really don't want to be talking for 3 more hours, so I think we're gonna cap it at 10. But let me tell you how I found these things so you can do it too. First of all, Google it. Google the local bookstores in your state. Go on a bookstore crawl. Go to one bookstore that's very nearby. Ask the people working there what their favorite book is. They will love to talk about it. The other thing that I did, because I frequent the bookstores in my county, so I kind of was on the level with all of them. But what I did was I picked a state. I Googled indie bookstores in Wisconsin, and I just clicked through their websites. I looked for ones that seemed like my vibe, because you can tell a lot from a website. It's 2025. I clicked through, I looked at their vibe. Some I emailed about stuff. A lot of them have newsletters you can subscribe to hear about like new releases and staff picks. And a lot of them have staff picks right on their website. They even have customer reviews, staff reviews. There is just like a whole world out there of booksellers and librarians who will tell you what books they think are fantastic, and they've read so much more than we have just because it's their job, So I would recommend, Google it, go online, check some out. It'd be really good for you. I'll probably have like 2 or 3 or 10 more of these videos just as I keep receiving responses and as I keep, looking up these indie bookstores because they're really cool. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy to have you. I'm so happy that I even have the equipment to be able to film things like this and have fun. I'm grateful I can read and have books and that I even have a little bit of time to read in the day. I mean, I'm like a mom and a full-time worker, so it's hard to fit it in, but it's honestly kind of refreshing and helping me come out of my shell to tell you guys about it. And I really like it. And I feel like I'm getting smarter by like finding out about all these books. So we will talk next week because I post every week. Please comment, please like, please subscribe. I will follow and subscribe to you if you are a book channel because I love to see it. I love to support. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.